everybody's able to stay with each other. You can't get away. So the racing's not down to who is the quickest going through the corners and being able to manage that. But it's more a sense of trying to strategize and place yourself where you can slingshot into the lead close to the final lap and get away from everybody. We'll see how much it winds up being that. Maybe they'll get a little bit separated. We'll see. But do anticipate that people will be able to pass each other a little bit easier here today, no doubt. Now, we have an onboard lap to illustrate here with our fastest driver in the HSEL race here, Jake. This is Brendan Yonker, 1,000th of a second faster than Lusardi.
Yeah, and it's all about holding the line, going down through the bottom there of 1 and 2, getting that drive on the exit. You've got banking on this straight, not as much banking on the straight as you do in the corners, but essentially with how much banking there is, you pitch the car down in low, taking the middle line, trying to just open up the exit. Now watch this one go wide. Just use that small drop off the exit. Gives you enough of a momentum boost to effectively run yourself then through the final stages, and that's a lap around this Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it does showcase to everyone just how much you're having to focus. You're always trying to look at the line down low, but the G-forces that you'd naturally have when you're driving a car would actually try and push ahead to look up. So it's a lot more of a difficult challenge. It's just a small glance over, really, when you're out there in the sim, but it is a massive, massive challenge that they're going to have to go there today, and I think Yonker really proved it.
Yeah, he seems to still have the speed, but Lusardi so close to him, and timing may mean that this will be tougher for the 31 to take home the victory. At least he doesn't have as many cars to deal with, only 8 of them getting ready to take to the green here in a moment's time. In fact, we got about 30 seconds left before the qualifying is official over. And again, if you're just joining us, where there are 2 races that are going to be happening simultaneously. You heard me mention the High School Esports League and then the National Junior College Athletic Association Esports, which Jake will be calling over on the other side at the same time. This is a series that is basically trying to get students and young folks an opportunity to dip their toes into sim racing to find out what it's all about. And boy, I think they've gotten a little bit more of a dip. I think they've been thrown in bodily to the lake for this one, Jake.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a really, really tough ordeal. And when they line themselves up, they get themselves ready. They know that one lap that they're going to have, and they've immediately got to go. You are flat out. There is no lift, no yield. You've just got to be patient as you go around. And I'm sure that the grid's going to prove it. It looks close. It will be close.
Here's the grid for my set for HSEL. Brendan Yonker, as I mentioned, on the pole with Lusardi to his outside, and only 1,000th difference between their time. Brendan Morrill will start from 3rd as Benjamin Marino starts P4. Seth Holland will start in 5th. Jason Dolersky, only good enough for 6th today, as Alex Ford will start from 7th. Last one to set a time, Dominic Villarreal was not able to put one down, so we'll start from the back of our 8-car field. What about over for yours, Jake?
Well, no surprises. 3 pole positions out of 3. AJ Green got there, but only got there by 0.04 of a second over Alexander Brown, who once again lines up on the front row. Gina Welliver will go from 3rd with Dan Banner in 4th. Eli Friedley, good qualifying up in 5th with Justin Abbott on the 3rd row. Ian Allenbar will start from 7th with Jesse Braden in 8th position. Heath Hensley starts 9th, and Anthony Taylor will round out the top 10, the only driver not setting a qualifying lap.
As we will get a single pace lap this time, since this is more than a mile in length. And we'll see if those on my side are able to go around without having issues on... Well, nope, they won't, as I just saw Lusardi, the 11, it looks like, get a hit from Dolersky in the back as they came together. But thankfully, it didn't wreck them. It looks like they're all still rolling. Unfortunately, we are missing Villarreal for some reason. I'm not sure why we have lost that car. So only 7 will take to the grid for mine as we wait for Jake's to take off on the pace lap as well, which should be getting going briefly. And it looks like they're trying to get back into order here as well on mine, as they got a little bit shuffled around in the process. but they come around 3 and 4. It is going to be a relatively quick race at about a half an hour, 70 laps, and it'll be mostly flat out through the course of the race. Who can adapt to super speedway racing and its incredibly unique style of strategizing? Pace car is in, looking for the green flag. And it looks like it is out for the 31. He is on the loud pedal as they get underway, but the 7's going to hang out around the outside. Will he be able to hold on here into turns 1 and 2? Looks like the answer for that one is no. He's going to have to settle in, but they got a big jump to Morrill behind them and to Marino back there in 4. So already seen some separation here at the start of this race. Villarreal did start from the pit lane, so we will have 8 cars. Let's go to Jake for the start of his race.
No Anthony Taylor then at the start, so he will not be taking part in this race. For AJ Green, it's all about maximizing the start, running through turn 3 and 4. And with the outside there of Alexander Brown, you got Gina Welliver, who's there. Dan Banner's going to want to try and work on this early. Who's going to make the progress and at what time? Pace car dives in. How quickly do you respond to the jump? Everyone pretty much there. Green flag, and we're underway then for NJCAA. And already Welliver almost pushing on that inside line, trying to get that launch up into second, and some tactics already in play. Top 4 looking like they've broken early here on the right-hand side.
And a little bit of hassle for Jonker as Lusardi was getting up to his rear bumper and just gave him a little touch, and another one there coming through the quad oval on the front stretch. Got to watch out. They can easily take each other out, and Morrill will blast by into the lead if these two are not careful. 7 backs off, gives him a little bit more space, but he's discovering how easy it is to slipstream up to the back as we have a few cars in pit lane with some damages. It looks like Delursky and Holland are in there. So they have got a meatball flag. I'm not sure what exactly caused that. That's going to give Villarreal a chance to go by them and get some positions.
Well, it's 4 at the front, then it's 1 behind of Eli Friedley, and then it's 4 back behind them. So really interesting dynamic going on as they run to 3 and 4 once again. Nobody with enough momentum to really go out there and make that move. But these 4 are trying to break away from the rest of the field. Make sure it's a race just about them at the moment as they now run through looking to finish the lap. Watch out for Dan Banner in the back starting to pick up that run. He's going to have to go the long way around, but there's nobody to help up there. And this is one of the few times where you say the draft's important. If you're in a train of 4 and you've got to try and get past the other 3, you're going to have to rely on side drafting, getting close to the car underneath.
Another little skill that you may not be aware of unless you are already a hardcore race fan and understand how this style of racing works. On my side of the screen, on the left side, Lusardi's caught back up but isn't pushing him anymore. They're going to go by some of the lapped cars. Villarreal going to stay down on the low side. Oh, but that loosens up the 7. He catches it eventually, and it isn't completely easy around here at Charlotte.
No, it certainly isn't. Dan Banner trying to go to the outside. I think I've just seen an incident happen for about an entire corner for Jesse Braden, who's been caught up with Heath Hensley and Ian Allenbar out on track. So they've all had troubles, but the front 4 are all nice and calm, at least for the time being. They know that this is still a long style race, and a couple of drivers were saying that they were struggling, that this has been a long haul for them, that I'm starting to get tired. This is a workout. And so they're really going to have to work over this final race to make sure that the fatigue doesn't set in, because they'll be dealing with a lot, keeping their arms out. The lactic acid that's there in the arms, that's going to be one of the troubles they deal with.
I know we've been holding on to Jonker and Lusardi here on the left side screen for HSEL, but nobody else is close to one another for now on that one. Is Morell's in 3rd, Marino's 4th, Ford 5th, and Villarreal in 6th. He's already been lapped.
It's going to get close, you feel, at this point, and this is where you're going to have to start thinking about where you go. Oh, my goodness. They're into the back. Brown getting into the back of Welliver and having to lift out of it to avoid the instant drops a place for the troubles, but it just shows you how much they're willing to push then. Lap 6 of 70 here.
Yeah, it's way too early to be making silly moves, no doubt. They need to stick together for now since that four-car breakaway has got a pretty decent gap. But a little bit of a drift up there from the 33, going to open the door and allow one of his rivals through. Lusardi's dropped back to about half a second, by the way, on my race behind Jonker. So he's lost some ground, but he should still be within the slipstream up to this point and could regain on him if he doesn't have any issues. We'll have to keep an eye on that, as certainly looks like it's a lot more interesting up at the top here with your race, Jake.
Oh, it is. And AJ Green, who's at the front, arguably has the most unenviable position being at the front of this. So he can dictate the line, he can dictate the tempo in terms of how this race goes. But Welliver, Brown and Banner, if they start working together in this race, they can effectively form a three-car pact in this one to make sure that AJ Green can't really do anything. It's going to take coordination between all of them, and we've seen already that it has been a little bit more troublesome out there overall. Fanning out then goes the two of Brown, trying to get a little bit of insight, then looking over to that left-hand side, not wanting to make a move then from third position up to second and challenge Welliver in the 9. So it's once more a game of patience. They run through 3 and 4.
Also, Lusardi is now 8 tenths behind. He's proving significantly slower than Brendan, and Morrill is quicker, so he's closing the gap there. We could see a change for second at a few laps time, but over here in HSEL. But they're about 20 seconds ahead of Marino, so not under threat on that one. And then something's just happened to Alexander Ford where he's come into pit lane. Looks like the car got loose and he wound up in the wall. So he's trying to take it down into his pit stall, but I think he blew the engine, so he's basically done. And wow, things staying a little bit tense up there on your side, Jake. Oh.
Gina Welliver, what a hold that is. And it's all down to Alexander Brown moving over to the outside, trying to make a move. Now Welliver's going to start pushing up the circuit here, potentially. Maybe think about where do you not want to make the move. And now here comes the push. It's going to decide, no, I don't want you just leaning on the side draft. I'm going to lead into the side of you and decide, you know what? We're going to get the elbows out here. Lap 10 of 70. And it's only going to continue. Stuck on that outside track is Alexander Brown. He can't stay there too long. He's getting no help from AJ Green, who leads this race and may have to start to defend both sides they go through. It comes down to who does Dan Banner want to help, and I think he might decide he wants to help the two. He moves up to the top side of the circuit. He's going to try and give some help.
Too wide for second place there, and then one trailing behind, but can't quite seem to carry the speed. It's now over 1 second for Lusardi behind Jonker, continuing to consistently run about a tenth slower than Brendan, but a tenth slower as well from Brandon Morrell, also behind him. So should be similar pace then for Morrell to Jonker, which means unfortunately won't be able to catch up there. Continue to watch one of the more interesting races here over with Jake's race, but I'll keep you abreast of things as they develop over with HSEL.
Well, nobody is giving an inch here. And it's absolutely incredible to watch. AJ Green, who has been at the front, has been doing everything correctly. Dan Banner in fourth has struggled to really make too much of an inroad here on that outside line. He's going to decide to duck down low. Understeer's a little bit out wide there, coming through 3 and 4. That's going to drop a couple tenths, but that's not the end of the world right now. You've still got a little bit of time to just gather that back. You're right in there in the moment. Don't have to make the move immediately, but they've been side by side for a number of laps, and we've still got the race that's 5th and 6th. Eli Friedley and Justin Abbott haven't really lost anything. Olmbar is back there at 14 seconds, and then Braden and Hensley 2 laps down. That's how the entire field looks at the moment, but key's going to be Alexander Brown. How does he manufacture a way past Gina Welliver to now start to think about what AJ Green is doing? Answer is needs help or needs to get ever so slightly closer.
Morrill gets second place, but not how we thought. Jason Lusardi got loose out of turn 4 and smacks the pit entry wall. So he is now in pit lane to take his spare car. He's going to go multiple laps down. We are down to 3 cars left on the lead lap. So ours are all separated and yours are all clumped.
Pretty much. That's about as close as you can get, right up to the wall. Goes the number 2 then of Brown, trying to figure out maybe I can take a wider arc into 3 and 4. That gives me more room. But again, that bottom of the track is just being taken away a little bit there by Gina Welliver, who's being more of a track general out there in this race. And what do I mean by that? Pretty much dictating where Alexander Brown is going is Gina Welliver. And that's such an important skill to have. You either have it or you don't. And it's the difference between getting the line you want and getting the line you don't want out there on circuit. Coming out then of turn 2, Welliver might think about having the move here as they go through. In fact, they beat and bang for about 2 taps there as they go up towards 3 and 4.
Another incident on our side. Marino, who was getting lapped, unfortunately smacked the wall and then got hit by Morrill in the process. He's in pit lane. Morrill with that contact. I'm not sure what his pace is going to be like, but he's the only one left on the same lap as Jonker now, about 3.5 seconds behind. This will be telling when he comes by the line what the timing is like with his pace. Dan Banner, we're watching on the right-hand side from the nose as these street stocks continue to keep their foot to the floor. I can tell you that Morrill crosses the line with a 38.2. That is slow. That is about a second slower than Brendan Jonker. So that kind of means that Brandon's probably going to have to come into pit lane to get a spare car, or else he'll just keep losing time.
And still, they now fan out single file, almost a tap to the back there of Alexander Brown, which then suddenly means trouble because they now form 2 packs of 2. It's like watching Talladega at the end of the early noughties in the race, for example, of Dale Jr. getting a push around to win. It's pretty much that sort of mentality at this point. You're going to need a friend here if you're there in 3rd position. You're going to need a friend to move up into 1st. If you're 2nd position, you're either going to need someone to push you from behind, and if no one wants to work you, you're just going to have to push on the driver in front, little into the outside then by Alexander Brown. And this is where things could get dicey as they try and look. Big check up high side then as they go through. Brown having to get out of the way.
I'm impressed with the way these guys have been racing and managing things. Whoa, as they're going to have to bob and weave there on Jake's side over on the right-hand side. And yeah, it's so easy for this to all unfold into just a heap of a wreck, Jake. And I've seen professionals do that, honestly, where racing, this Speedway style racing has wound up in that. Is it looks like the one of Morrell has also now fallen victim and blown the engine. He had a little bit of contact with Dulurski there coming through the quad oval. So now nobody is left on the lead lap with Jonker.
That's a real shame over there at that side. Jonker again finding himself with a lapse advantage in that field. But these 4 are nose to tail running through here in your NJCAA E out there at this point in time. They are really starting to showcase what this oval style racing is all about, the street stocks, why this is considered a super speedway style race, because there are no guarantees out there. Sometimes you get friends, sometimes you don't get friends, sometimes you get lap traffic right in front of you, and that is going to be Heath Hensley, who's probably going to have to jump up to the top of the circuit to avoid all 4 of these drivers working their way through. So this is going to be a really critical phase of the race.
Yeah, still a lot left to go here. Even our leader's only on lap 22 out of 70. You see him as the one was able to somehow limp his way back to pit lane with that burst engine, and is just smoking his way down towards his crew to try and take that spare. Wonder if Villarreal is going to be able to move up into 2nd then. Remember, the 5-car Villarreal started from pit lane, and apparently that was the right call. Unfortunately, 2 laps down right now, but has got a car that seems to be intact and is just rifling off the laps.
Horrible bit of wash for the 2 of Brown that leaves trouble out there on circuit trying to make a run, and they might split the traffic here and go 3 wide, or the door might firmly shut through the first small flick left of the lap, so has to fall back into line and lose out. AJ Green and Gina Welliver will now make some time up. Dan Banner in 3rd, Alexander Brown in 4th, and they're going to have to work hard once again to get back up to position. 2nd group still working, but they're losing time. They're losing a lot of time actually about 2 to 3 tenths a lap, Abbott and Friedley, as Gina Welliver, we go on board from the nose in second position, trying to make sure that AJ Green is out of harm's way to make sure that this race continues on. A little look at the under tray.
And then on the left-hand side, that was the 7 managing to put a lap on Benjamin Marino. But Lusardi's actually catching up to Dominic Villarreal. Oh, in fact, Villarreal just had an accident and is able to get out of the way, thankfully. So that's going to now allow Lusardi back into second. Dominic, for a brief while, was holding on to second place and was doing a very good job, considering he was a lot slower than a lot of his rivals. But this is a tortoise and the hare sort of situation sometimes in racing, where you might not be as quick, but you're safer.
The phrase I like to use is catching is one thing, passing is another, and it's very much being showcased right now at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm watching every time they're on the back stretch, they're running right down to the bottom of the circuit. And the reason why they're running to the bottom of the circuit and not that traditional out to in to out is because the path of least resistance, they're not actually dropping speeds. They're stuck 219, 220 kilometers an hour. So they're stuck at about 150-ish, 150 miles an hour as they try and get around. Now, the one issue that they're going to be having right now, if you're stuck up in second, in third and fourth, is engine temperature. And it's a very important thing to talk about, because that engine's going to get hot. If you stay behind the wake of someone else, there's no clean air coming over the car. It's just dirty air that's recycled over the top, and effectively that can raise temperatures. And I wouldn't be surprised if there might be a couple of engine worries a little bit later on in the race as they go through 3 and 4 once again.
They're riding on board with Brown now, who sits fourth of the 4. The quartet has been hanging out together. I think they've got the idea on this thing. The fact that nobody's turned each other up to this point shows me that they're doing a very good job. A little bit of a push, though, there.
It might get a bit worse. They go up, grabbing some apron. Dan Banner up into the side there of Welliver, who just about stays out of the way of it. Brown all there, and these are the fine margins. We're not even halfway through this race. This has been 26 incredible laps of racing that they've had so far, and now as they run through 3 and 4, Brown looks like it's going to fall back into line, and they've just got to be patient here, because the more that they squabble second, third and fourth, that's exactly what I want from number 46, AJ Green, looking for the sweep.
Indeed, as they come down into turn 1 once again. Nothing new to report over with HSEL. Yonker leads, Lusardi second, 2 laps down. Morel is back out on track, but he's about almost a full lap behind Lusardi right now over there. So definitely not as thrilling as what we've got right here. This continuous battle for the lead at Charlotte with the NJCAAE. That has been really stunning here in this final race of the afternoon. Unfortunately, it looks like we may have lost Villarreal, though. I'm just noticing that that car looks like they have exited the race. Oh, and we've had a problem for Lusardi now. Once again, second place, a little bit cursed. I think he maybe caught the wall a little bit and is coming into pit lane for some reason.
We've had troubles on our end as well. It looks like Justin Abbott's come together then with Eli Friedley, and both of them have had troubles in the pits right now. Is Justin Abbott. Friedley, I believe, has kept the car out there on circuit, but at the cost of holding the place, but not by much out there. So still, front 4 continues to be the story of this race. AJ Green, Gina Welliver, Dan Banner and Alexander Brown as they head towards ever closer to that halfway stage. Brown trying to make some moves on the outside there of turn number 2. Isn't going to manage it just yet, but there is still time, and AJ Green is starting to showcase that he doesn't want anyone to get by. Slightly moving up the circuit on the back stretch. Little tap to the back from the 2 might just give a way to go forward, but Green is starting to defend ever so subtly on that front stretch, making his car, his street stock, wider and wider and wider, and doing enough, making it more difficult for Welliver to come out and around and try and take the race lead away.
Looks like Lusardi's gotten back out on track. Morel's promoted to second. Marino is now in third. Lusardi falls to fourth, 4 laps down from our leader as only Brendan Yonker looks like he's going to be able to complete every single lap so far in this race. But he's going to slow up as we got a blinking Villarreal. So Villarreal has not retired, and he's off the pace. This actually does help a lot of the rivals of Brendan Yonker, as he has been all day, very circumspect about trying to lap other cars.
Speaking of lap cars, there's three on the horizon, and there goes the race leader on your end, Joe.
And this is only the second time I think we've had a proper wreck for the 31. Didn't hit the wall too hard. He's going to lose a little time. He's 2 laps ahead of Morrill right now. And he's back on the track. Ooh, as people are having to take avoiding action. No forced pit for this one. He does not have the black and orange flag, so he can get back up to speed. But what is that speed now that he's damaged the car?
For a moment, it looked like he held on to the cone there, so that would have been trouble. This is Justin Abbott, and the view behind the 4 race leaders right now who are out there on circuit trying to put some laps down. So 2 will go to the bottom. In fact, all 4 might decide to follow as they run on through. This is a very, very important phase of the race. So they're going to go through and now open it up. No way you're going to decide to prize your way down low. That's going to be trouble. They're all going to stack each other up now, and all of a sudden, no place to go. Banner's going to start thinking about the outside now and making a move on Brown. Which way you go? Contact with the lap traffic. Lap traffic gets sent into the wall there. Almbar is not going to be very happy about that. But crucially, all 4 remain in line here for what is NJCAAE as they now reach 33 of 70.
And one thing I didn't catch in that accident with Yonker there is Morrill was one that got caught up in it. He falls down to 4th because he was on avoidance and smacked the wall down the backstretch. So we'll see if he loses that 4th place to Seth Holland, who's trying to catch up to him because he's stuck in pit lane. It is now 3 laps, and it is Marino who is in P2 in the 11 over with HSEL.
Oh, the little touch to the back, and another one there from Alexander Brown. Gina Welliver nearly found herself around that, and that could have been a huge disaster. They've now got to navigate past the 4 of Jesse Braden out on track. And once again, AJ Green sliding a little bit through this section, has to be given the room going through as the traffic goes by. This is a really, really awkward phase as they just about reach halfway at the end of this next lap approaching. This of the top 4 right now, AJ Green has looked the most composed, but has had it at the front of the field. It only takes 3 drivers to figure out what they want to do, who they want to give some help to, that they can find a way by. And it's about at what point do you want to start saying we're all working together to we're all working against each other?
Yeah, that's the big question mark. Ultimately, it could come down to the final corner on the final lap. There's a little touch from behind to help give him that little extra pace. I do see that Lusardi is catching Marino for 2nd place here soon. So we might have a change for position over in H-Cell here in a moment.
There it goes. And there goes Banner. And there goes Brown. And there also goes Jesse Braden, and suddenly a race of 4 just became a race of 2. It had been threatening all race long, and all of a sudden it is now Green versus Welliver here at Charlotte.
I kind of figured it couldn't last forever. Yeah, that was some very close racing, but they did a fantastic job up to that point to hold on to it. It's just about to halfway, but now it is really limited things. And how well will these 2 work together to get to the finish? Have they learned the lesson that wreck maybe should have hopefully taught them about trying to just hold on and stay patient until we see that white flag?
Well, it's about who wants to be where and at what point in time. The top 2 now have that in space. Dan Banner will fall a lap down and dive down into the pit. So too in the pits is Alexander Brown. They both fall a lap down. This will promote Eli Friedley up into 3rd position, who's just got lapped then as they went through. So the top 2, a lap clear of everyone else in this field. And now Gina Welliver's got to figure out a way to stop the clean sweep from AJ Green. And it's going to have to be a patience game with 33 laps to go. Troubles on your end, Joe.
Somebody down on the grass. Oh, and that's Yonker, I think. Yeah, that was Jonker. So finally, he blew his engine. He must have gotten some damage from that wreck. His temperatures must have been getting too high, and the car expired. So he is in pit lane now. Marino comes now down to 1 lap behind. Can he get around in time before Jonker can get back out on the track? And will we finally see another lead change for the first time since the start of the second race over at USA?
It just goes to show you that luck can only last for so long, and then when your number's called, your luck will run out. And that is a race which you don't want to find in the wrong position. We do have a retiree now from this race. Heath Hensley now takes a retirement, leaving us just the 8 runners then here around this circuit. Alexander Brown still in the pit, so still a long way to go in this one. But over to you, Joe, because HSEL suddenly is going to get interesting. Marino and Lusardi, oh my!
And those were the 2 that were going to catch up. They were getting back onto the lead lap. I think they both managed to stay out of the wall. Jonker still in pit lane. This is Marino and Lusardi, who, if they hadn't have touched each other, may have been a lot closer up to getting that lap back and now taking the lead away from Jonker, who still sits in pit lane. It's about a minute and a half that he's been down there. I hope he's not trying to repair the car, because if he blew the engine, he's going to be in there for a full half an hour and won't return. Marino now takes the lead as he goes by the stationary 31, and Lusardi has to try and get by him.
Oh, now this becomes a really interesting race over on your end, Joe. Still, the top 2 are there at this point in time. Green and Welliver working really well. The chase is on for Dan Banner to reach Eli Friedley, which will be a tall order in every single sense. Alexander Brown now will retire the car down to 7 here. And
there, the leaders just got taken out by the wrecking Dulurski. Both of them hard in the wall, Lusardi and Marino. And it looks like they both have black and orange flags. They're going to have to come in and pit. This leaves Morel, who is in 4th, to try and overtake both them and Jonker, Jonker's back out on track now, actually.
Wow. So everything that possibly can happen is happening over in HSEL. In NJCAAE, it is very much a case of 2's looking at this point. Welliver trying to have another search, still not going to quite find it around the outside, but you're going to have to manufacture a move at some point soon. We're only on lap 43 as they go around, so this one is going to pretty much be, I would think, if they don't come together down to the wire, no matter what happens out there, anything possible at this point. But I think Jonker's got another lap's lead there for you, Joe.
Yeah, he is back to the lead, although he's having some issues, it seems, with his internet. He blinked out on us, and I think he's back to normal. Morrill now gets up into 2nd place, but he's a lap down from Jonker. Marino and Lusardi are waiting for their cars to tow back into pit lane, take the fresh machine, and get back out on track. That was a wild set of circumstances that wound up being back to status quo, but it took a very roundabout way to get there.
Well, it was a very nice walk down a windy beach to a cafe that was closed. Let's put it that way. It's exactly the same at this point as they go through, and they're both going to exit the pits on the left-hand side. Welliver is getting close, and actually just came over the radio apologizing to AJ Green, the in-sim communication that they have, saying sorry for bumping you there on the back about a lap ago. And now it might be about focus. Gets a great run off for the exit. It's going to have to look high side to try and get it sorted, but might run out of drive if you're not careful up on that top side. And now trying to dive down, doesn't dive down nearly quickly enough, and ultimately drops 2 car lengths back.
So Lusardi got lapped by Morrill, and that means that our top 3 are all a lap apart from one another. Marino's still waiting to get back out on track. I think maybe he accidentally left the tires and fuel on, and unfortunately, the fuel in the street stock takes a long time to fill. That car at the side is Dulurski, and he's going to take a tow as he had yet more problems. He's running 8th and last. There, he's back out. Marino now able to return to the races. That was a very strange line from Alex Ford as he took to the apron and then back to the banking.
Yeah, and that will be a little bit problematic continuing to run down on the bottom, you will get slowdown penalties if you're not careful down there. And when it comes to fuel as well, it's very interesting. This car isn't fueled up with a fuel pump, so to speak. It's filled up with a fuel jug, which means that you take a gallon jug, you put it up against the fuel tank, you pour all of what's in the jug in, and if you need any more out there, well, you're going to have to wait, because you're going to have to wait to put a brand new jug on. So that's what takes it so long as they go through. You have to wait for gravity for the fuel to dispatch into the fuel tank.
Yeah, and each time that they have to go and get the next virtual gas can, before they're able to get back. And the 31, is behind the 11, who's losing control. Is he going to get back into him? He is! And we have another incident with the leader. Did he get away with it? Jonker is able to get the car moving. Looks like he's okay. How is it driving? He weaves back and forth to feel it out. Looks like it's pointing straight. That's the main thing.
Joe, is this the point where I say that was oversteer because the back nearly fell into the back of the wall?
I'd say so, but just a little bit. But the 31 is still a lap ahead of Morrill, so he's still looking good. Lusardi is actually past Morrill, so he's gotten his lap back from him. Seems to have pretty good pace. Jonker, and we kind of talked about this before we came live, I kind of figured, Jake, that this would be the one that he wouldn't be able to get away without problems.
And there have been problems, and that's absolutely correct. And Welliver right now is certainly thinking about causing a headache or two for AJ Green. Am I going to go and make the move underneath? Am I going to make the move up top? Where am I going to decide to try and make my progress and try and figure out the right way to do it? This is tactical chess, essentially, and they're running around trying to think of where is the right place to make it happen and at what point in time. They're still running 36.8 over the course of the laps, getting what's sorted. But the longer that they run in this race, the more the tyres are going to scrub. As drivers come down into the pits on your end, Joe, the more those tyres scrub for the leading two in what is this incredible race on the right-hand side. You just start to understand, okay, at what point can I, not go flat out? I think we're not going to reach that, but what point do I find the way to the inside? I've got to set it up for a couple laps.
Yeah, you mentioned drivers in pit lane, so I quickly looked to check on the who has a meatball flag. 4 of the 8 are serving those, getting fresh cars. Lusardi's one of them, so he has to come in again. Delursky, I think Ford had one as well. And yeah, he's taking his repairs. So this has been one of the most bizarre races I think I have ever called here on iRacing. And we're now back to 2 laps up the lead for Jonker over Morrill, who is one of those that is currently getting his car fixed. It might be 3 laps here in a second as he gets back. Yeah, he's going to lose another one as there goes the 31 on by him. Lusardi just now reaches his pit stall.
Yeah, so while those pit stops are happening, Welliver is still in focus. Eli Friedley on an island on his own in 3rd position. He's got about half a lap over Dan Banner, who is in fact racing with 5th position for Ian Allenbar. But the issue is that Allenbar is 3 laps down on Dan Banner at this point. For the leading duo, AJ Green just has to protect the front of this race, and is even to the point where he's dipping ever so slightly 2 tyres underneath the apron, trying to get as much coverage as possible to make sure there is no angle on the inside. This is going to be a very, very important run through the final stages then as they go through. How will Gina Welliver decide to attack?
That's the big question mark. They've made it this far. They are the only 2 essentially that are in the hunt for the win unless they take each other out and give the others a chance to become involved. So I have to keep an eye on it. As on the left-hand side of your screen, that is Jonker in the 31. Wow, that was a scary moment with Lusardi, and not sure how he wound up there. I think, yeah, car just got loose, it looks like, on his way out on cold tires. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's been a big reason why we have seen as many spins as we have here today, as it seems the cars are a bit of a handful when you put fresh rubber on.
They're also a handful because they are still racing in the heat, which is a crucial point. In fact, they still have that 100 Fahrenheit plus to deal with out there on track, which is just making this track a little bit greasy, a little bit slippery to try and deal with. So they're going to be a little bit alert to where they need to be out on circuit. But with 17 laps to go, ticks over 16 laps to go, figure it out. This is where you need to be very patient and work out, well, they cover this part of the circuit nicely. They cover this part of the circuit nicely. Do you sense a place where you can open up if you defend in a certain way that you can get to the prime place? The inside line is the key around this circuit here, Joe. Cover that off, it's going to be very difficult to make an overtake. How do you open it up, though? Well, Gina Welliver, that is your question, you would say, for pretty much your NJCAA here, Joe.
They call it the chrome horn. That's how you get them off the bottom line. We'll see if she tries to loosen them up just a little bit and manage to duck underneath in time to sneak by. Definitely using every inch of the track every time, drifting all the way out to the outside, maybe trying to carry that speed and see if that helps. But so far, no dice.
No dice, but there is still chances. There are still a long ways to go and make it happen, and it'll be 14 laps at the line heading towards 1 and 2. There isn't really a break where you can try and get through. You just need overspeed, and that's what makes life difficult, having that overspeed to carry the momentum to alongside. If you can make it to alongside, you can elicit some of that side draft, and if you can manage that, you can get alongside, and there are more chances that come along. AJ Green driving perfectly. That 5,000 plus I rating really does help out at this point, and it is a showcase to behold that Green is doing pretty much everything you could possibly ask from a driver at the front of the field at Charlotte in a street stock.
All right, we're down to less than 20 laps to go for both of our races. Lusardi in pit lane again. He's been having a miserable time at the end of this one. Not going to be able to repeat that second place, I don't think. Moral is the one holding that position about 3 laps behind Yonker, who's on lap 54. So 17 left here for the 31. And that is Villarreal that you see, who currently runs in 6th position. Tversky had another run in with the wall, it looks like, and we've seen this multiple times from the 6 coming out of turn 4. He's going to take a tow and go back into pit lane once more. So all we've seen so far is that the 31 just has to watch out for those accidents happening in front of him, and he's got to do so for a few more laps.
Well, it's very easy for it all to just creep up on you, especially that turn 4 wall on exit. It's very easy just to look at it the wrong way, try and take as much as you can and just understeer out into it, trying to use all of the circuit. So I think it's been clear that, at least from those in the NJCAA, that they've been going around and just keeping it away from the walls as much as possible. They want this race to be a race which is one between those two. It's still got Jesse Braden to try and figure out a way by, but they'll be hitting 10 laps to go here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and at the home of street stock style racing, we're going to have ourselves a street stock showdown here between Green and Welliver.
Might have a change for 3rd at some point over for ours, but it's going to be a couple laps away. Marino's within about 4 seconds of Holland and looks to be consistently quicker than that 69 machine. So I'll break in if that starts to unfold over there, but really not much to look at for HSEL as down the backstretch with only 10 laps to go. You talked about it earlier here, Jake. When do they start making moves?
3 to go. That's when I think the right time is to make that move. With 3 laps to go, you give yourself 2 opportunities. If the first one doesn't work, you've always got the last lap. But if you go with 3 laps to go, you also give yourself time to defend and time to work out where Green's strengths and weaknesses are from the opposite position. So for Gina Welliver, I think it's patience from here on out. Jesse Braden has the best seat in the house, sitting in 6th position in this race, and gets to watch the lead battle all the way to the end of this one.
It doesn't want to get caught up in things, though, if things wind up getting a little sketchy there. And we've seen already that it's easy to get tangled in a wreck in front of you, even if you think you're managing to make avoiding action. So I'd be very heads up for the remainder of this race. Content to sit behind, but also try and keep on my toes.
Look at the one there on your screen there, Joe. The front right's completely caved in.
Yeah, this must have happened just now. I'm checking to see where he did that. Oh, hit the wall at the exit of 4 onto the quad oval. So he's going to have to come in. Seth Holland is the next one back. And you can see more drama throughout the field. Holland still being caught by Marino. So there's a good chance that the 11 of Marino could get himself up into second place. There you see him chasing on Seth Holland as they go by the start-finish line as well.
7 laps to go in NJCAA. AJ Green looking for the sweep. Gina Welliver looking to halt that progress. It's going to have to try and go around the outside to figure this one out. Looking up there, going towards turn 3 and 4, and is not going to quite find the line potentially that unlocks it. And every time you start looking up, trying to find that move, another lap gets ticked off the books, and this is what becomes difficult. Where do you find the move? And time is running out.
In both cases, Jonker currently now 10 laps to go from the finish. Morrill is now on the same lap as Holland and Marino. Oh, and looks like Holland just hit the wall, and he comes back down. Are we going to have another situation like before? No, the 11 manages to get by. I thought for sure, just as we thought we were going to see a position change, that we'd have another wreck with the 2 that we're going to take the spot, which has already happened twice in this race.
That would have been so dramatic up there in HSEL. But it's now down to 5 laps to go. Gina Welliver has been having a small search here, having a small search there, but all these searches aren't meaning enough out there in terms of this race. Trying to open up that opportunity with AJ Green just holding station at the front, doing everything correct at this point. Still a long way to go, still chances left, but heading through 3 and 4 doesn't look likely at this point.
And it looks like Morrill did get out on the track before Marino was able to catch him anyway. So Morrill will stay in second by about 20 seconds, which is pretty handy. Holland continues to drop backwards. He cannot keep pace with the 11. But Jonker now comes down to take the signal for 8 laps to go. And he is 5 laps ahead of Morrill, and has just been running away with today's races. He won the first 2, both by multiple laps, and he's about to repeat that as long as he can keep from getting spun by a couple other cars.
I think Welliver might be too close here to AJ Green. That's going to sound really weird, but if you can give yourself a run of about a half a second and close up that gap and use that momentum from the slipstream, you've got a real chance of making that move. Being bottled up right underneath doesn't leave any room to gain an overspeed, to gain an advantage. And this is the issue that the 9 is having compared to the 46. There'll be a couple of popsicle sticks up in the air signaling 2 laps to go here over with NJCAA.
Getting so close to the finish there. On the other side, we fell a little bit behind due to wrecks and some slower pace here for the HSEL, but also getting close to the finish. But we don't have a close race over here, so Jake, I'll let you call the end on your side.
Gina Welliver has to figure this one out. We have been talking about it pretty much since the incident between Banner and Brown took place, where it was an incredible 4-car melee. It's now turned into a 2-car tango as the white flag will come out at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the NJCAA, and Gina Welliver looking to try and stop the clean sweep of AJ Green. It needs an almighty run then through 1 and 2 to get this all sorted out. This is where you're going to have to try and find the run of runs if this is going to work. Looking low, keeping that car slightly at 1.5 car lengths wide is working here for Green. And again, just moving up to the end of that first lane, forcing Welliver to have to go to the outside. It's a really good effort here that's been going through. Welliver can't find the right angle though, and as they come to the line, where can you find anything left? It's going to try and go almost through the grass and the AstroTurf to get it done, but AJ Green is going to sweep the lot.
Nicely done, and we're going to see similar as we're now down to 5 to go for Jonker. Still well ahead of all his rivals. Holland is catching up back to Marino. Not sure what changed for those two. If maybe there was a bit of contact with the wall for Ben, that maybe he's lost a little bit of pace. Yeah, you can see Holland now right on the rear bumper of the 11, and he's got the laps to try and do it. Now down to 4 to go.
Well, 4 laps to go to try and find that move. And it's once again going to be about patience. We've seen time and again how very easy it's been to understeer up in this HSEL race. And that 69 of Holland's trying to get past the 11 of Marino. And Marino, I just think, has been the more consistent of the two, who's been able to keep that point in the straight line a little bit better. Holland's been dealing with understeer. And then when it comes to 2 laps to go, there's still a heck of a margin to try and close down yet.
Yeah, he's going to have to be closer than that to be able to overtake Ben. And, drifting up high like that's certainly not going to help the situation. It extends to now 0.8 of a second between them. This time by going to be 2 to go for Brendan Jonker with a 5-lap lead over Brandon Morrill as he crosses the line himself. Morrill, the 11 there on your screen of Benjamin Marino. Yeah, responding well, but he's slow yet again, and Holland back up to him once more.
Almost like it's a missed shift or something of that ilk. So for the 11 then of Marino, this is going to be trouble, but takes the much more conventional line going through, maybe slightly wobbling up and over like a bobsled on one of its runs. But at least at this point, you'd say Marino's got it covered. And a couple of laps back of that is Lasardi, who's trying to get past both of them out there right now. And this is just a really, really difficult phase. It's a paint-by-numbers style approach here for Marino, who's heading towards that white flag lap, and Morel is all over.
And Jonker had a heck of a time trying to lap forward. So he's able to get through. The 6 almost hits him now. It almost seems like they have something out for him.
Oh, Holland's in trouble.
Oh yeah, looks like Marino is going to be well ahead as something happened to Holland. But Brendan Jonker, despite a few scares coming to the white flag, comes around the final corner. And just like Green, it is going to be a clean sweep for the 31, winning all 3 races here in the High School Esports League. Fantastic work from Brendan Jonker. So there you go, Jake. You said it earlier, 2 drivers to watch out for who have already got perhaps a bright future in sim racing ahead of them.
Well, 2 different clean sweeps in 6 very different races. I think it definitely proves a point that those 2 definitely have their eyes moving forward. And it hasn't been necessarily the most polished performances out there from everyone. It's always going to be difficult, but drivers are learning, getting to grips, learning to understand what this is capable of doing. And those who are getting those sorts of elements down and underneath, they've got a number of years before they reach up to that high level. I was looking at sim racing when I was going through. Sebastian Job was one of the drivers that I think is one of the greatest sim racers of all time, and he was up there at a high level at 14 as a phenom. You look at these drivers, they've been given all the tools to go out there to succeed, to get what they want, and why not get the burnouts going? You've deserved it. 3 wins there for Car 31.
Exactly. Doesn't need to prove anything as he gets to celebrate now and gets a little love from some of his rival. Well, it sounds like we are going to be closing out in a moment, but first let's go through the results here, Jake, as we've got yours up first.
0.07 of a second the margin, but they won't talk about the margin. They'll talk about how great of a run it was for AJ Green, who led every single lap of that race, with Gina Welliver trying to find every way to find a pass, but couldn't find one at the end of racing at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Eli Friedley would inherit that third position, then driving a lonely race in the second half ahead of Dan Banner, who was involved in an incident with Alexander Brown. Justin Abbott would finish fifth ahead of Jesse Braden and Ian Allenbar, who couldn't catch back up to the number 4, the 5, finishing in 7. Alexander Brown would end up 8th, retiring along with Heath Hensley and Anthony Taylor, failing to make the start. Joe, to HSEL.
Brendan Yonker takes another win, this one by 5 laps over Brandon Morrill. Benjamin Marino managed to inherit third place in the end, as things were certainly in flux there in the final lap. Seth Holland tried his best to get back into that podium position, couldn't do it, and had to settle for 4th place. Lusardi, who was so good all day, had 2 second places, couldn't repeat it. He winds up 5th today. Villarreal was 6th and Ford 7th, with Delerski rounding out your top 8. And I think that is going to wrap things